to do so. So I'm going to introduce the first speaker, who is Jason Wilshire-Mills, and his full biography is on the sheet. I would just say he reckons he does about 70% of his work, which is painting-based, but now primarily digital painting, because the paint doesn't get on the bed sheets when he's working from bed. But he reckons about 70% of his work is residency-based, including the longest, which was at a rugby club, is that right?
Yeah, Wakefield Trinity, yeah.
And he spent 9 years in prison, but I hasten to add, not for doing anything wrong, but teaching and artwork and so on.
That was it, yeah. Absolutely.
So, over to Jason. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just turn
yeah.
on a minute. Get the brakes on. Well, good morning, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? That's good. This is actually a fulfilment of a lifelong ambition to be a bingo caller. Eyes down for a full house. Jason Wilshire-Mills. I'm going to start off by sort of giving you a very quick biography. Born and raised in Wakefield, did my foundation in Wakefield, went to Cardiff to do my degree in painting. Had a fantastic experience, but at the end of it, we were given a 15-minute talk. This is what you do when you graduate. 15 minutes. That set me up really well. Went back to Wakefield, skint, in lots of debt, but was really committed to carrying on the practice as an artist. And my first studio was actually on the site of the Hepworth, where the Hepworth Gallery is now. It wasn't as glamorous, the studio I had there, and I basically couldn't keep up the practice, and did the worst thing that artists can do sometimes, and I went into teaching, and the teaching that I focused on, because I was able-bodied at the time, so it wasn't an issue, but the teaching I focused on was working in prisons. I spent 9 years teaching at Armley in Leeds, which 1,300 guys, and we did really well, and looking back, I don't know if this was a great thing to achieve, but we won the Jerwood Community Arts Award in 2003, and as a result of that I got headhunted to go down and take over a college department in Lincolnshire. And I used to commute from Wakefield on my motorbike, and everything was going really well. Life ahead was grand. 2 kids, a lovely house, all that kind of thing. 6 months into the job, I woke up thinking, I don't feel too well today. Carried on for about a week, and I went to the doctors, and he said, it's probably a kidney infection, don't worry too much about it. And then he said, I'll just check your reflexes, because he noticed I was walking a little bit slowly, and he said, you've got no reflexes in your legs. I think you should go into hospital. Why? You've got no reflex in your legs, Jason, that's quite serious. Cut a very, very long story short, it turned out that I had a condition where my immune system was attacking itself. So basically, there's a party going on inside constantly between viruses that get into my body and my white blood cells, that instead of saying these are the enemies, will attack it, they join in the fight basically and attack my central nervous system. So consequently, I have very, very good days. This is a good day, yeah. and bad days, which I'll go on to shortly. So if you want to, thank you, Laura. So, talk about my practice. When I became disabled, I basically was really struggling with holding down a job, because I was still doing this wonderful job in Lincolnshire at an FE college, and I was on morphine, really high dose of morphine for pain, and was in bed quite a lot. And I had the great idea, it came to me one day, that I should do what I was trained to be and be an artist. That's what I should do. So I said to my wife, I'm going to give up my job, this really well-paid job that I got headhunted for, and I'm going to be an artist. That's the thing I want to be. And my mates, who were all practicing artists, because I kept in touch with college friends, said, "You're a painter, Jason. You're not a manager. This is what you are." It's a bit like Hagrid going into the little hut and telling Harry Potter he is a wizard. You know, it's you're a painter, and it was a real sort of realization that that's what's in my DNA. That is what I'm designed and trained to do. So I said, I can't paint. I'm in bed. Life's really bad. Blah blah blah. I said, well, David Hockney is using an iPad to paint with, and I read the articles and I thought, well, yeah, I can see that because. Back in the early 90s, when computers were coming to the fore, this comes back to bite me a little bit. I'm reminded by my mates that I said, I will never bleep paint with a computer, and now I make a living out of it. But I consider what I do is following a tradition of artists using different tools to make art with, and that's how I justify it, and it keeps me happy, sort of thinking of it in that way. So I bought an iPad. And my timing was absolutely impeccable. I bought the iPad in December. By April, I'd given up my job because I had my first exhibition in America, San Francisco, and basically I wasn't in Kansas anymore. It was one of those, I was in San Francisco. It was one of those sort of situations where, I can do this and make a living out of it, and my life completely changed. I've done residencies with Arts Council funded residencies with a year long I did with a professional rugby league club. Christ, that was a year. They went bust halfway through, and I had full access to everywhere within the club, including the changing rooms, which you can imagine at my eye level was, quite difficult. But it was a really interesting residence because there's lots of tensions. One of them was, you've got all these geezers that are full of muscles and fit and able, and you've got a geezer who isn't, and there was lots of interesting stuff, but I managed to achieve everything that I was able to set out and what the Arts Council wanted me to do. One is artistic excellence, tick, hopefully, and the other was engagement, and I engaged the community by making a 100-metre mural with 3,500 kids in Wakeford and Barnsley. And if I wasn't bald at the start of it, I would certainly be at the end of that year, because it was one of the most stressful years when cheques were bouncing and the Arts Council were getting involved and saying, why aren't you paying Jason, all those kind of things. But it's gone from strength to strength, and I'm not applying so much for residencies now. I'm getting approached, which is a really lovely sort of position to be in. Which brings me on to what I'm here to talk about today, really. I do a lot of work with Shape Arts. Shape Arts are a fantastic organisation based in London, but with a kind of national and international kind of outlook in supporting disabled artists. And what I really like about Shape, and I like the fact that, one, that they support me and they seem to like the work I do, but there's also kind of quality judgment about the work. It's not you're disabled, so it's okay. It's not a kind of foot and mouth artist kind of setup where it's the quality of the work is kind of, I think it'd be right in saying secondary. It's they like artists to be of a certain standard. They will support anybody, but that they afford one opportunities such as the one that I'm going to talk to you about. So I did a residency a couple of years ago, September 2014, at the Olympic Park in London, with Shape and the Olympic Legacy, the Olympic Legacy List people in London. And at the end of the residency, which I'll also add as well, was really difficult in lots of ways, because Laura's my PA, and I can't go anywhere without help, basically. But I have to pay for my PAs to have a hotel room and for their travel. Then I claim it back. That's what the idea is anyway. But for the residency that I was doing at the Olympic Park, I came out of it about £4,500 in debt, because Access to Work, who support disabled people in employment, did not want to pay those costs. So it was a really difficult period. But it absolutely changed my life, that residency, because one, I was commissioned to do 2 pieces for the House of Parliament, and that came directly from that residency, so that was absolutely wonderful. And the other was, when I was leaving to catch the train on the last day of the residency, I literally bumped into the guy who was the head of Shape, Tony Heaton, and two gentlemen from Qatar, who it turned out one was from an oil company and the other was from the British Council. And they said, this is Jason, he's an iPad artist, he does this, that and the other, and he's just doing a residency with us. And they said, oh, that's really interesting, would you like to come to Qatar, Jason? And I said, yeah, that sounds okay. I'm sorry, but I've got to get my train. And I kind of rushed off, not thinking about it, and it wasn't, I thought it was just kind of, to be honest, I thought it was a joke, you know. I didn't even know where Qatar was. I know the World Cup was going to be there. And so that was September, and I'd forgotten all about it. In January of last year, I'm just before the work went up at the House of Parliament, I got a phone call from Tony and said, are you ready to go to Qatar in 2 weeks? Yeah, that's fine, Tony. But in the meantime, so could you next slide, please? So that's the Museum of Islamic Art, the most exotic, beautiful place on the planet, really amazing. And the exhibition that we were asked to do, there were 4 artists approached to actually create work based on Islamic art. And this was the week that Charlie Hebdo attacks happened, and I'm getting a call from Qatar saying, would you look at our collection at the Museum of Islamic Art, choose a piece of Islamic art and then reinterpret it? I was crapping myself. I thought, blimey, you know, this I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for this. This is really scary. And then this happened. Basically, I stopped breathing one night, and my heart rate was 200 and odd. And my wife called the ambulance, and she thought I wasn't going to make it. It was a really, really horrible, and I was supposed to be going to Qatar in 2 weeks' time. But this is where the magic comes in. This is where Shape and the British Council, I owe them an absolute debt. They said, you're still doing the residency, Jason, but you're going to do it from bed. You're going to do it from home. So I was basically thinking, I've got to get there. This is where I need to be, but I need to get there through the creative process. And I was physically in a mess, mentally in a mess as well, because I wasn't able to sleep, because if I slept, I'd stop breathing. So it was there was lots of things, medical stuff going on, but I started making art about from the collection. So I had to go online and also in the meantime, I'm being interviewed by the BBC as well about going to Qatar, and the kind of the whole kind of focus of this was we were asked to fall in love with a piece of art that was in the Museum of Islamic Art collection, and I was really stumped. And as I said, I was scared about the choice I was going to make, because I was given this task of reinterpreting a piece of Islamic art, and the piece that I kind of chose was it was really lovely, really, because it kind of summed up everything that I was kind of feeling. My colleagues, my artistic colleagues, had gone over to Qatar and were doing the residency. They had full access to all the collection. They could literally go and touch them, and I was still in bed, doing interviews with the BBC, and trying to get my head around the work I was going to create. And the piece I chose is 17th century Islamic painting by an artist from the area who painted a portrait of the Western gentleman. So this is what an artist thought in Arabia, as it was, what a Western gentleman would be. And outside, look over his shoulder, there's a window that is basically an ideal English countryside. And my idea was, all my colleagues are in Qatar, they've got access to the collection, they've got access to the culture and everything. I'm still in bed, you know, trying to deal with the sort of medical stuff and getting my head around this, but I kind of subverted that idea. And they were able to see as well, I've never actually seen this in real life. I've never actually seen, but this was really pixelated image, but this is the only images that I had access to, and that's in situ at the Museum of Islamic Art. So it was a really sort of bizarre residency, and you know, making art from bed, getting phone calls from Qatar and emails and emails with attachments and stuff on Facebook where they were going to feasts with the Qatari royal family, and I'm thinking, you know, I've only had a pot noodle today, and you know, it's a really sort of bizarre setup. So I managed to get to a state where I was physically, the doctor said, yes, you can go to Qatar, and the journey was really bizarre. Because I wasn't allowed to go to sleep, and because I had to have oxygen to make sure that I carried on breathing, they couldn't find a plug socket adapter for most of the journey, so the aerostess kept prodding me throughout the journey to keep me awake, to stop me from going to sleep. It was absolutely surreal, and I was quoted as saying is, Damien Hirst didn't have to put up with this. Because Damien Hirst had been to Qatar, he'd been the first Western artist to go to Qatar the year earlier. The royal family, a member of the royal family in Qatar, she's, I can't remember her name, but she's one of the richest women in the world, and her hobby is collecting art, and she's been sort of noted as being one of the most important women in world art in terms of, you know, the old money sort of side of things. So, you know, I was on this plane eventually going to Qatar. My friends had all been there 2 weeks, and you know, they'd created their pieces, they'd fallen in love with their stuff. I'd looked at badly pixelated images. I even got a catalogue for Museum of Islamic Art from eBay. I ordered a catalogue because I couldn't see the collection. I couldn't get access to the collection. So I kind of immersed myself in the way I work is my whole catalogue of artwork is immersed in kind of trying to describe what my condition is doing to me. And one of the kind of narrative tools I use is using insects to kind of show the battle between my immune system and the bugs that get in, literally the bugs. But what I did here was kind of research what the bugs were like in Qatar, what particular insects were kind of local, you know. I couldn't actually be there, but I wanted to kind of get a real sense of you know, what the culture was. This is one of the main. What's it called? Laura again, well, falconry. Yeah. That's like football over there, which is it's huge, and it's a rich man's sport, you know. But it was kind of all this kind of heraldry culture, and just trying to immerse myself, but doing it. Like I said, doing it in bed in Sleaford in Lincolnshire was like really bizarre. It was really cold as well, and the artists over there that were kept, you know, all these photographs, hey, holding up glasses and in t-shirts. It was a really interesting process. And again, just kind of choosing, trying to sort of imagine myself there, and that's why using that image. The portrait of the Western gentleman was really sort of alluring to me, really, because it was kind of, I had to imagine myself there before actually being there. And I don't want this to sound like, you know, sort of, I don't know, hokum, or trite or anything, but part of me kind of dealing with my condition and getting better is by making art about it. And I'm from the Mel Brooks school of making art, in that what actually gives me pain, I put it in tutus and put silly masks on it and make fun of the things that are causing me to be, or sometimes I kind of make them into insects, as I say, and give them other kind of characteristics. So this is me in bed. This is me in bed, starting this painting, and on my paintings usually there's a not that I've got a huge ego or anything, but usually include me in a kind of Hitchcockian way. I make an appearance, usually thinner, bizarrely, usually thinner than in reality, but it kind of reflects kind of being ill, yeah? So I've just carried, and that's me actually in bed, and I dress as Batman in bed. That's very important. And these are just kind of showing the process by how I built up the image. So I'm making my own kind of version of the portrait of the Western gentleman, research on local fauna as well, and making that into kind of decorative imagery as part of the work. And then just sort of slowly building it up. And so I'm working on an iPad. I never actually see the work until it's printed, because I'm looking at pixels all the time. This is the first time I actually saw my work, and that was a photograph of the print. I did not actually see the photograph, and this is the final painting that I was commissioned to make. So, as you can see, it's a kind of mirror image of the portrait of the Western gentleman, but given the sensibilities of a northerner who's not breathing, and he's at home in bed. And I tried to sort of make reference to that, and just try to, this is the kind of response to that 17th century artist. And there he is again, bless him, yeah. If you just, and this was the first time that I saw, so the painting that I made, I never actually saw until I travelled 4,500 miles to see it at the opening of the exhibition. So it was a really incredibly emotional experience, engaging with it and seeing it for the first time. And I mean, bizarrely, I think the piece was a breakthrough piece for me as well, because of all those obstacles, and it really pushed me to kind of create in a different way. And this is the British Council members and the other artists that were involved. It was a groundbreaking exhibition, because in Qatar there is they're really trying to get their head around disability. Presently, there's a long way to go, but this exhibition was part of that, raising awareness. And from this residency, I started creating art about the whole process of the journey, and then I was commissioned, finally, to make a piece of art about the whole experience. So it's about showing not being able to breathe on the plane. I always stand up in my paintings because I'm rubbish at painting wheelchairs. It's the ellipses, they're always very difficult. But again, just trying, but really celebratory, because it was a really rejoiceful sort of experience at Qatar, because it was overcoming lots of challenges. I can honestly say it absolutely changed my life, really, and afforded me opportunities that I couldn't really, I couldn't believe, really. And even now I'm sort of feeling the repercussions, the ripple of that, just really being committed to the residency, and looking and working with people that were really sort of wanting to get me there, really, and weren't too worried about the obstacles. And they kept saying to me, because I said I can't go, because I was terrified of going in case I was really ill. And they said, "We'll get you there," and that's all I needed to hear. Are we on time now? Is that?
We've got a minute.
Oh, a minute! Oh, blimey! So it was kind of groundbreaking, and it showed that whatever however ill I am, or whatever disability does to me, there's always a way around it. But what's most if you take all that stuff out of it, I produced really good stuff. You know, it really pushed me to get to produce work that was kind of taking me down a whole new avenue, really, of like the creative process. So, you know, and the relationship with Qatar isn't over. We're hoping to go back again and do some more residency work. Some stuff with the World Cup as well, so that's really exciting if it happens. And politics. But so are we there then? Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we've got a couple of minutes for questions. If anybody wants one, and I'm going to run at you with the mic, or you can just shout. Yes, please.
Who's your favourite artist? Do you have one?
Who's my favourite artist? Blimey, it depends what day of the week it is. There's the obvious ones. I mean, first of all, there's the disability thing.
The disability thing. And there's second, you know, I'm an artist first and foremost, but I look at people like Frida Kahlo, you know, obviously absolute inspiration for a disabled artist and their practice, overcoming some of the kind of things actually, and saying some of the kind of things in a work. Stanley Spencer, I really love, but you find, I love sort of magical narrative and creating. I see it as like I'm still doing what I did as a kid now. I create new biographies for myself all the time. If the one that I'm presently experiencing isn't up to scratch, and it's like I did as a kid, pretend to be a superhero or whatever. So it's those painters like Stephen Campbell who plays with that notion. You know, a lot of the Scottish contemporary artists I really like as well, because that's sort of strong physical aspect and the playfulness almost of the work as well.
Any other questions? I'm going to ask one if you don't ask. But oh yes, do you want to shout? Or?
Yeah, please may I ask, what software do you use on the iPad?
For an artist that makes a living out of using technology, I'm an absolute Luddite. So I use a piece of software. I can't even update my operating system because I use a piece of software called Brushes, which there is a version available, but it's not the version I use. I use a version that's about 6 years old, but it does what it says on the tin. I'm not in love with the technology, but it just and I've been able to build a studio at home, and I overpaint, but it just gives me, it's a tool that affords me the opportunity to work regardless of, I mean, just really quickly I'll tell you how portable it is. I have regular injections into my spine to stop pain, epidurals, and I took an iPad into the theatre with me because I was working on something. So I had my buttocks on display as I laid face down on the theatre table and was carrying on with a piece of artwork. That's how portable it is, and it's but yeah, it's about Brushes. You can still get it's free as well, so not bad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you think the work was better or different as a result of your remote working?
Because I couldn't see what the others were doing, there was a real sort of competitiveness, you know, really. And I wanted to. There was 4 artists that we were chosen specifically for our skill set to go over there, and I wanted to make sure, and we were given this amazing opportunity to show in an absolutely outstanding, beautiful gallery, and I wanted to make sure that what I did was something a bit special. So the pressure, talk about, and I want to do something I hadn't done before, really, because with the technology, it's very limited. There are limitations. It literally, I do very complex imagery in terms of lots of layering and things like that. And the iPad, sometimes I've had to get IT specialists to get the images off the iPad because the files are too large, and I'm actually doing stuff that the iPad can't cope with. You know, so there was lots of I literally couldn't get the image off the iPad. So I had to have a special email set up that could deal with very, very large images, because it sends itself. It's actually a movie. It turns itself into a movie. The software, in order to communicate with the MacBook, and then it turns itself into a high resolution. You put it into a little bit of software. It turns itself into like a super high resolution image. But it's basically a movie that's kind of. It remembers all the marks that you made and then puts it all together. It's amazing.